At this year's E3 Games Fair, Ubisoft announced that the planned The Division filming will not be shown in the cinema, but directly on Netflix. As screenwriter, John Wick director David Leitch was hired, and in front of the camera as leading roles we will be able to see Jake Gyllenhaal and Jessica Chastain. And that's not too surprising, since the first Division part is the most successful video game regarding sales in Ubisoft's company history. The move to release the film directly on Netflix and not in the cinema is certainly connected with the fact that the 2016 video game adaptation of Assassin's Creed was quite a flop. When The Division will be released on Netflix, however, is not yet known. It has been known for some time that the Fantastic Four will become part of the MCU after Disney has taken over Fox. Many fans have been hoping for a decent successor after the rather motherless first part in 2015. Marvel boss Kevin Feige said in the past that Marvel's strict schedule did not plan to integrate the Fantastic Four in the near future. Now, however, the online magazine Geeks Worldwide claims to have found out from an anonymous source that Marvel expects the successor to be released in 2022. It also came to light that Ant-Man director Peyton Reed was heavily involved in the planning and that he had already submitted several drafts. This indicates that the film will probably play in the 1960s and that the quantum level, which was important in Avengers Endgame, could also play a role. If the insider information is correct, it can be assumed that the Fantastic Four reboot will be officially announced at the San Diego Comic-Con this year. So if Geeks Worldwide is right or not, we will certainly find out in the near future. Next year, the sequel of the celebrated Wonder Woman from DC is finally on the agenda. The first part, released in 2017, worked mostly independently from the rest of the DC blockbusters, and especially the main actor duo Gal Gadot and Chris Pine was well received by the audience. Now, director Patty Jenkins, who also directs the second part called Wonder Woman 1984, has published her first poster on Twitter. It shows Gadot in golden armor against a psychedelic background in W form. Furthermore, you can see the hashtag Wonder Woman 84 and the release date. Unfortunately, we can't interpret much about the content of the poster. We only know that Diana Prince will be dealing with some kind of cheetah woman. Also, Chris Pine is expected to return as pilot Steve Trevor. For further information, we have to be patient. Wonder Woman 1984 will be shown on the screen at the beginning of June 2020. Many fans will be disappointed, however it looks like the planned and desired real film or series for the Justice League Dark comics will not be realized anymore. Therefore, the project, which was supposed to be realized by Guillermo del Toro as director, seems to be put on hold for an indefinite period of time. According to various sources, this has to do with the recently discontinued DC series Swamp Thing, since the Swamp Monster would have been an essential part of the Justice League Dark. The Business Insider reveals that for the DC series Swamp Thing, 3 seasons with an option for more were originally planned. In the later seasons, individual characters would have been introduced, and these could have ended up in a Justice League Dark, similar to the Netflix series The Defenders with Jessica Jones, Luke Cage and Daredevil. All of this is supposed to be no longer a topic for DC because of the financial issue of Swamp Thing. Anyway, the series hadn't caused so much enthusiasm among the people in charge either, and so it's over after a season of Swamp Thing and therefore probably also for the Justice League Dark. The scriptwriters of Avengers Endgame recently commented on one of the funniest, but also most popular theories that circulated before the release of the film. The idea was for Ant-Man to crawl into Thanos' butt and then tear it apart by growing up to a gigantic size. The theory, which is common as Thanos in relevant forums, seems to have now also reached the scriptwriters Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, as they expressed themselves in a podcast of the Empire magazine and announced their concerns about the theory. They are quoted as follows: Thanos could take a punch from the Hulk, we've seen that, and it stands to reason his whole body is at least as strong as that. If Ant-Man expanded, he would be simply crushed against the immovable walls of Thanos' mighty rectum. At least now it is clear that this fan theory probably would not have worked out, and we're all now, as far as the rectum of Thanos is concerned, a little bit smarter. Although the promo phase of Quentin Tarantino's new film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is still running, he recently also commented on his longer-announced Star Trek film at a press conference. The Star Trek series can look back on a decade-long success story, and not only the upcoming Picard series with Patrick Stewart, but also a film with Tarantino as director will be added to it. Certainly, the path to a possible release is still far away, but his recent statements seem promising. One of them is a preliminary script by the Revenant author Mark L. Smith, which Tarantino hasn't really dealt with yet. Tarantino also commented on a possible youth release, as he announced that the new Star Trek film would definitely get an R rating. With the other new Star Trek movie Star Trek 4, which was to be produced by director S.J. Clarkson, things don't look good at the moment. Currently, there is little hope that Star Trek 4 will be produced in the foreseeable future. It seems even more realistic that Tarantino's Star Trek movie will be finished before Star Trek 4. However, a fixed release date for both films is not yet clear. Who would have guessed? Only last week we reported that Steven Spielberg would like to have a new face as the leading actor for Indiana Jones 5. But now it's clear that the 76-year-old Harrison Ford will be once again an archaeologist in front of the camera. And not only that, because Ford himself announced at the same time the start date of the shooting. In an interview with Variety, he announced that the shooting will start sometime next year. He also assured that things are going well and that they are finally in the process of achieving a satisfactory script. Until we can see Harrison Ford in his cult role as Indiana Jones, we'll have to wait another 2 years. SpongeBob SquarePants is one of the cult series of the late 90s and 2000s. Now, the series will get a prequel called Camp Coral. The plot is supposed to revolve around the young SpongeBob, who goes together with his friends to a summer camp. There, the young sea inhabitants learn jellyfishing and how to light a campfire underwater. In addition, the 13-episode series is not supposed to become the same as its predecessor, because it will be realized completely with 3D animation. Originally, the third SpongeBob film should have been released in 2022. However, no one knows for sure if the plan is still up to date. Unfortunately, we don't know yet when Camp Coral will appear in the cinemas, but we expect a release date in 2021 at the earliest. The trailer for the Lion King remake could almost make you believe that director Jon Favreau shot his film with real animals. Only the fact that the animals speak makes you think that it's an animated film. In fact, the remake was created completely on the computer, which means that not even the actors stood in front of the camera for motion capture shots. In a recently published interview with Favreau, he makes it clear that he doesn't want to call his Lion King remake an animated film. He is quoted as follows: "Well, it's difficult because it's neither really. It depends what standard you're using, because there's no real animals and there's no real cameras and there's not even any performance that's being captured that's underlying data that's real. Everything is coming through the hands of artists. But to say it's animated, I think it's misleading as far as what the expectations might be. And it also changes the way you sit and watch it, because hopefully you could just watch it without it being introduced. If we put up that Rafiki footage and didn't say what it was, some people might know, some people might not know how it was done, but it causes you to be present and mindful and pay attention because you're trying to figure out what you're looking at. And that's a great disposition to be in as an audience member." Sounds like a pretty well thought out concept. In addition, you can read between the lines that they don't want The Lion King to be seen as an animated film, since the association with children's movies is too great here. Whether animated film or not, The Lion King remake will be released on 19th of July 2019 in US cinemas. In 2012, the revenge blockbuster Django Unchained by Quentin Tarantino was released. 3 years later, a comic series called Django/Zorro was published, which began immediately after the events from the original film. In the comic story, he meets Diego de la Vega, better known as Zorro. He joins him as his bodyguard and together they start to liberate slaves. As the magazine Collider now reports, Tarantino intends to bring the comic book he created also to the cinemas as a film. In addition, the US-American comedian and writer Jared Carmichael is allegedly involved. However, it is not yet known whether Carmichael will act as the sole scriptwriter. After his upcoming movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Tarantino wants to retire anyway, which is why it's questionable whether Tarantino will take a seat on the director's chair at all. Tarantino's next film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, will be released on 26th of July 2019. In the course of an advertisement for the IMAX presentations of Spider-Man Far From Home, a new poster was published by Sony and Marvel. After that, more or less surprisingly, a shitstorm started in the net, since the new poster looks rather like an intern of the marketing department had to design a poster quickly. It certainly doesn't look like the poster of the new film of a multi-billion-dollar company. As always, the question comes up, are the reactions of the fans exaggerated? According to many experts, the poster is also badly designed from an objective point point of view and even contains some Photoshop mistakes. So you can definitely blame the Spider-Man team for the shitstorm. However, as it is in the case with all shitstorms, they have a good side, as 2 weeks before release there is nothing better than attention. You can find out which quality the film will have from July 5th on, because then Spider-Man Far From Home will start in the US cinemas. According to some rumors, Daniel Craig's injury at Bond 25 has more serious consequences than expected. According to the British newspaper The Sun, the shooting has now been delayed by 4 months until the end of November due to the set being demolished by an explosion. Therefore, joint shoots between Craig and Rami Malek would have to be postponed. Of course, the Sun's coverage is to be enjoyed with caution, but since there is neither a comment nor a denial from the official side, it could be possible that the Sun is right with its alleged insider information. Should this really be the case, the release date on April 9, 2020 is also in danger. However, you will surely hear more about it in the near future.